What is hypnosis? Well, hypnosis is really just a state of mind. So, in this state of mind, what happens is that we bypass the conscious mind, the part of the mind that is analytical, logical, rational, so that we can access the subconscious, the part of us that is free from doubt, free from skepticism, free from ruminating thoughts, negativity. And we access this part of us that is creative, imaginative, free, this inner child that's filled with wonder and awe and play. And in this subconscious space, we have access to so much information. The same way that they say that we're only using a small percentage of our brain, and what's in that greater percentage? It's all the programs, all the patterns, all the infinite intelligence, the same way that they might call the subconscious this vast sea of information that we're all connected to. This is our way of tapping into that. So hypnosis is really just a state that allows us to tap into that for various purposes. Hypnosis versus hypnotherapy. What's the difference? Well, you could think of hypnosis as essentially the tool or the method that accesses these different brainwave states and allows us to tap into them, which we can go into on another video. But essentially there's beta, which is wide awake. There's alpha, which is a little relaxed, a little more tapping into this subconscious space. And in this alpha state, we're very receptive. So if you've ever been driving a car or watching TV, a movie, going for a walk, in the shower, just closing your eyes, relaxing, you'll notice that thoughts start coming to you. You're not deliberately thinking of the thoughts, or I'm going to try to think of this. But what happens is that you start remembering things or being reminded of things. Oh yeah, I have to do that. I have to do that tomorrow. Or, oh, I got to remember about this. Or maybe you have inspiring ideas. That's why they call these shower thoughts sometimes, because these thoughts just come to you. And sometimes they're just amazing ideas or things that you can do creatively. So that's in the alpha state. You start to be more receptive. Your brain switches into input mode where you're receiving inputs, rather than in our waking state consciously, we're usually more being productive, where it's more about the output. The next state is theta. So typically we're only in this state right before we fall asleep and right when we wake up. This is the state where we're actually kind of seeing the dreams. So going to bed at night, whether you're just falling asleep or kind of in that hypnagogic, woozy state, or you're just waking up, you've probably remembered actually seeing your dream, and maybe you even felt the feelings that was associated with the dream. I know that I've woken up crying many times just because my dream was so powerful, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy that it was so powerful that I'm really feeling these emotions. And you're seeing them very vividly and things like that. This is all in the theta state. So this is the sweet spot. Hypnosis is really a way, it's a tool to help you access this space. Ideally, it's the theta state, but even the alpha state can be very, very powerful. In delta is when you're actually asleep. So in delta, we're unconscious. So the goal of hypnosis is really not for you to be asleep. It's not for you to be unconscious. It's actually to help you in a more conscious state be able to integrate more of this information and infinite intelligence that comes from your subconscious. So part of a healing process of overcoming things can sometimes be to take this subconscious material and bring it up into our conscious mind. So we can understand our patterns, we can understand why we do the things that we do, why we are the way that we are. And this is ultimately what hypnotherapy is. Hypnotherapy is a way to use this tool of hypnosis for therapeutic purposes, to help us work through various things, whether it's anxiety, depression, maybe we want to change patterns. Some of these patterns can be self-destructive. We're having patterns that are really not here for our highest good. They're actually making us feel like we're taking one step forward and two steps back. Or maybe we want to be more successful or do different things better. Then we can sort of access our subconscious to, whether you want to call it program our minds or just bring up what is absolutely true. Because sometimes I even consider hypnosis the exact opposite, actually de-hypnosis, meaning that sometimes we've actually already hypnotized ourselves to see things a certain way, to have blinders on. And we've taken in these thoughts and ideas and belief systems and all these things that our parents have given us, that our friends have given us, that we've been sort of programmed with or taking on by society to fit in or try to be cool or anything like that. And so we actually can use hypnosis as a way to unwind that so we get back to our natural state that is already free from all of these things. So that's what hypnosis versus hypnotherapy really is. And an analogy I like to use sometimes is that whenever we're, like, take it for example, a phone or a computer. We can see the phone, we can see the computer. We can know that, okay, I'm connected to the internet, or that I'm using my phone, I'm using my computer, but we can't see and we don't really know all the things that are going on underneath the surface. Know how it works, see it happening. For example, what does it take for a computer or a phone to run? Well, it takes electricity, it takes all these microchips, it takes all this hardware, it takes Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, internet, waves going through the air, and all this stuff is going on just to make this thing work. That's sort of what the subconscious is. Like, we can see ourselves, you can see me, but there's all these things going on, all these processes underneath the surface that are making me work and think the way that I do and live the way that I do. And it's hard to change that from a conscious level, but if we have a tool that can help us access the subconscious or even the superconscious, which I'll get into later or in another video, that can be very, very powerful. So again, hypnosis is a tool. Hypnotherapy is the actual means of creating better outcomes or better results or healing certain things within ourselves so that we can function better. Is hypnosis safe? Yes, hypnosis is safe. There's a bunch of myths and misconceptions out there about hypnosis that have been sort of portrayed through us, to us through the media, entertainment, movies, things like that, stage shows. And a lot of times it's made us think that hypnosis is some form of mind control, or it's a way to get us to do something that we don't want to do, and it can control us. So what I want you to know is that nothing can be done without your permission. All hypnosis is absolutely permission-based. There's no way that you're going to be able to do anything against your own will. That being said, does hypnosis really work the way that it does in the stage shows that we see? Are the people just making it up? Are they just playing along? Or is that really happening? Well, actually both are true. Sometimes people are playing along because they don't want to make anyone look bad. Maybe they don't want to make the hypnotist look bad or things like that. But in other cases, and in many cases, what you're seeing is actually true. The person is really quacking like a duck or whatever that would be, but they've given permission to do that. They have wanted to do that. And hypnosis really can be a little bit like real magic, because if you're given permission, if you're allowing, then you can really get into a place where you can do those things. But again, it's all with your permission. So even in those entertaining or entertainment environments, you're still never going to do anything that would be against your own will. Because if anything were to happen, or you were to be told something that you really didn't want to do that would be against your values or your ethics or anything like that, you would snap out of it a part of you, that part of you is very protective. Your conscious and subconscious is both protective of you. So it wouldn't let anything like that happen. So that you can trust, but at the same time, when you're given your permission, you can really do certain things like that. And you may not remember it because you're going to be in this sort of state where your conscious mind is checked out. And your conscious mind is sort of the recorder. It's what records everything. So when it's checked out, things can happen and you won't remember. That being said, it's not mind control. It's all permission based. I'm going to go over, I've got some notes here, so I'm just going over some other myths. A big fear is, are we going to reveal any secrets or anything like that? Again, that's not going to happen if you don't want it to, if it's against your will. Sometimes we get nervous if, my clients, for example, may get nervous in a hypnotherapy session that maybe things are going to come up that they don't want to come up. That's why with hypnotherapy, it's so important that you have trust, that you feel safe, that you feel comfortable with the practitioner. In their presence, you've done your research, things like that. Because really, as a hypnotherapist, as a therapist in general, none of us are here to make you uncomfortable. Really, it's just the opposite. We want to help you be more comfortable, because whenever you're more comfortable and you're being vulnerable and you're opening up, that's when real positive, powerful work can happen. And again, nothing is going to come up without your permission. Occasionally, I will have sensitive things come up. So certain clients there may be some things that are a little sensitive for them, but they always have permission. They always have the choice to talk about those or to move on to something else. So oftentimes during a hypnotherapy session, if something sensitive comes up, you still have the choice whether you want to bring it up or talk about it, or you don't, and everything is okay. It is rare that happens, I will say, that anything really sensitive does come up. But if it does, it usually is coming up for a reason, because whatever this thing is really blocking you, or maybe it's keeping you stuck, or maybe it's keeping you emotionally stagnant in some way, and it's making you act or function or think in different ways than you should. Sometimes with these things that have happened, we're holding a lot of guilt, we're holding a lot of shame, we're holding a lot of anger, maybe we're not forgiving someone, and these things, or ourselves, maybe we're not forgiving ourselves, and these things are really stopping us from being who we're meant to be. So whenever they come up, it's actually an opportunity for us to really let them go and clear them from our system. So I look at it actually as a good thing if something like this comes up. But again, it really depends on if you resonate and connect with your therapist, because in this case, you would want to feel safe and comfortable to open up about those things. Another myth is, can we get stuck? So it is impossible to get stuck in hypnosis. This is a big misconception that you can just get stuck, or that you'll just be staying in the state, and that's not the case at all. It's basically just saying, like, will I get stuck sleeping? Will I just be sleeping forever or anything? Because all hypnosis is just a way to tap into a relaxed state. The worst thing that would happen is that you fall asleep and, then you just wake up, or your hypnotherapist kind of like wakes you up. So you're not going to get stuck. And yeah, I think that is pretty much it for the myths. But if you have any other questions, fears, concerns about hypnosis, leave them down below in the comments, and I can respond in the comments or make another video to address those. So ultimately, just in summation, if that's a word, is hypnosis safe? Yes, it is very safe. Nothing can ever be done without your permission. It's very gentle. It goes at your own pace. And it is very effective if you can open up and be vulnerable and allow it to. And sometimes that does take time, because sometimes it just genuinely takes time for us to be open and vulnerable and honest with ourselves, much less being open and vulnerable and honest with somebody else. But just know that me or another practitioner out there, that's skilled and trained can really help to create that environment for you to make really, really powerful change. And the key that I want you to know is that real transformation really can only come when you're open to being honest with yourself and vulnerable. Because if you're not, you're just not going to go there. And oftentimes we need to go there to do the real work and make those real changes. Okay, the science of hypnosis. How does this work? How does this affect your brain? And again, I'm just reading over my outline and my notes here. So again, just to reiterate, the main thing to understand is that what hypnosis does is it quiets the conscious part of the mind. If there's anything that I could get you to take from this about this, that's what it is. Because this left brain of ours, the part that is very analytical and critical and doubtful and skeptical, this is genuinely and generally responsible for a lot, if not all, of our suffering. So it's basically the part of the mind that creates so much suffering within us because it's doubting and it's critical, and it's usually directing that within. So we're doubting ourselves, we're critical of ourselves, we're punishing ourselves in certain ways, and it's just exhausting. And so think of this as like a tranquilizer almost. It actually quiets that, it calms that, so that we can actually just be ourselves. And what it can do is it can actually help us function like that normally, because there's a greater integration happening between our conscious and our subconscious. So that's really kind of a little bit more of how it works and the science. And I talked about the brainwave states before, but just to reiterate there with the brainwave states, that there are different brainwave frequencies. And when we can access that, the deeper frequencies, the alpha, the theta, you may have heard of binaural beats or some of these Hertz audios that you can listen to that help you tap into that. It's basically leveraging the science, because in these brainwave states, when we're kind of entrained into these states, that's when we can make changes. That's when we can open up new neural pathways. That's when we can open up to the universe, to life, to our subconscious, to our superconscious, and be able to pull this information down that we may not have access to. One analogy I like to use when it comes to this, going back to the phone or the computer example, think of it like this. Think of it as like, so my iPhone right now, I'm on an iPhone 14, I think. I know I need to get, the new one just came out. I need to get up with the new technology and hardware. But think of it like this. So I've got the iPhone 14, but I don't know which one just came out. Maybe it's the 17. But whatever one just came out. So think of this as like a software upgrade. So me, my human person, is the hardware. So I'm not upgrading the hardware. I look the same. But think of like your subconscious or your superconscious, or what we can access as the software. So imagine I'm running software 14, but in my cloud, there's software version 17. Would I feel really good knowing that I'm only running software version 14 when version 17, when the latest version is there in the cloud? No, I would want to download it. I would want to upgrade. I would want to install that newer version so that I'm running the best version of myself that I could possibly run. That's kind of another way to put it, is that in our subconscious, in this whole realm, as we pull down this information using these Hertz frequencies in our brain and tapping into the space, we can pull down that information to help us run our latest software upgrade. Maybe the software upgrade, maybe the version that you're running right now has a lot of fear, has a lot of anxiety, feels stuck, feels blocked, feels like depressed around certain things, feels stagnant, is not acting and functioning the way that you know that you can, not realizing your full potential. Well, in that space, as you kind of integrate that, as you pull down that information, that version of you isn't feeling anxious and frustrated and angry, and they're more clear. one more, I know I'm throwing a lot of analogies at you, but another analogy I like to use is think of this as if our energy is like a pipe. And if there's a lot of stagnant energy in that pipe, it's not going to flow the way that it should. But any of you who have done plumbing or anything like that, if you've ever like unclogged a pipe, you've seen, man, that stuff looks nasty whenever that's in there. But when you take it out, it's like, yeah, it's gross, but then everything starts flowing the way that it should. That's another analogy that I think is just wonderful, because that's what this does too. As you tap into these brainwave states and these different frequencies, and you're accessing this greater version, greater version of you, it unclogs the pipe, and then you can start functioning the way that you should. Okay, next one is, what does hypnosis actually feel like? So hypnosis doesn't really feel any different than your normal waking state. It really just feels exactly the same. So that's a big misconception that I get with a lot of my clients is this going to feel different? I expected this to feel a certain way. Maybe you expect to kind of be out of it or be groggy or woozy or something like that. That's not the case at all. I would say most people that I work with are very surprised to know that it feels pretty much exactly the same to how it feels whenever you're awake. And you're usually very present during the process as well. The difference is that, think of this as like you're putting on a VR virtual reality headset. And with that headset, you're seeing things, and it can tap into your feelings, and you can feel certain ways. So it's more of an experience, almost like a VR headset, where you know that you're in, whether if you're doing it at home, you're in your room, or you're in your house, or if you're doing it in an office, you know that you're safe in that place. But at the same time, you're in this other world too, and you're kind of operating in this sort of other world. And I'll get into this later, but it kind of goes little by little. But the main thing to know is that as far as feelings, it won't really feel any different, although it's very common that you will have feelings come up, different emotions that come up that you can work through and things like that. But in terms of the difference between hypnosis and your waking state is that you're actually kind of seeing things. It's most similar to actually a lucid dream. So if you've ever had a lucid dream, where you're in a dream and you know you're in a dream, you wake up and then you're like, oh, I'm in a dream, let me go stay in this. That's most similar to what hypnosis can be when you're in the theta state. If you're in the alpha state, then it's just mostly in your mind. Maybe you might be getting some vignettes coming through, or maybe you might see some images a little bit. But again, that's in the alpha state. That's the lighter state of trance. And I may get into that later or in another video. All right, well, hopefully I'm not boring you with all this stuff. We're going to move on to module 2 here. This is process and preparation. So how to prepare for your first hypnotherapy session. Just going over my notes again. And you'll notice here that I'm not doing any editing. And the reason for that is very deliberate in editing, like video editing, because our conscious mind is our editor. This is the part that's always editing everything that we're saying and everything that we're doing. And as a hypnosis practitioner, as a professional, as a hypnotherapist, my goal is to get that out of the way. And I think it's more challenging when we don't have that editor, because then, or not really challenging, but I think it's more maybe liberating when we don't have that editor. But maybe in the beginning it's a little bit of a challenge, because we feel a sense of perfectionism, or we feel a need to get it right and things like that. So I'm not doing any cuts and not doing any edits. And if everything goes according to plan, I won't do a single edit on this channel ever, because my goal is to make a point that life isn't perfect. And I just think that's kind of a fun way to go about making content, especially in a world where trust and authenticity is the most important thing. So you can see, look, I'm not editing anything. This is all just coming straight out of my heart and my soul. And if I mess up, whatever, you could see it. Okay, number 2, module 2 here, the process and preparation, how to prepare for your first session. So number 1, have a clear goal. This is so important. It's so important to set intentions, to have an intention, to know what you want to get out of it, because otherwise you're kind of flying blind, and the more intentional you can be, the better. That's why in my intake forms and when I'm working with clients and when I'm having consultations, I'm always really focused on goals, results. What are we going to get out of it? What do we want? Because otherwise, well, it may be a fun experience, it may be interesting, it may be exciting, we may get some stuff out of it, but otherwise, how do we actually connect that to real results? So make sure you know exactly what you want to get out of it, and also be open-minded that a lot of times, hypnosis is not a one and done type thing. I kind of consider it a fast lane to personal growth and a fast lane to actually doing the real inner work necessary to overcome this thing. So let's say you have a deathly fear of cats, or you're deathly afraid of heights or flying. Well, every issue has a root cause, and a lot of times these issues have a lot of layers too. It's impossible to know on the surface how many layers these things have, so that's where the hypnosis can really help, or hypnotherapy can really help get to the bottom of how many layers there are and what's really going on. So it's never apparent on the surface how many layers something has. You could have a fear of flying, someone else could have a fear of flying, someone else could have a fear of flying, but one person's may be more superficial. It may just be a little bit of a just nervousness around not being in control, whereas another person's fear of flying may connect to their fear of like really feeling unsafe with how they feel about God or about the universe or about life. Maybe they really don't trust that they'll be okay they just really feel that something extremely bad will happen, and it's really, really deep. And then number 3, maybe, someone has actually experienced something before in their life that was very traumatic, where something really went wrong. And that is sort of the cause. And maybe they've had a bunch of experiences throughout their life where something has, really gone wrong. So in each of these situations, there's different layers to it. And so hypnosis and hypnotherapy can help you work through those layers. And one session can help get through. Maybe in some people it can be all of the layers. Maybe in other people's it can be 1 layer. Maybe in other people's it can be 3 layers, or maybe you get like 40% of the way. So that's just what I always try to help people be mindful of, is that there's really no way to know at the beginning until we start doing the work. And even then, it's different for everyone. So don't always expect a magic cure. Can this be a magic cure? Yes, absolutely. I have seen and worked with people who have just been able to have amazing results and amazing success after just 1 or 2 sessions. But in all likelihood, it may take 3, 4, even 6 or more to be able to knock this completely out of the way. And even then, it may still not, but you're sure to make progress, because in my view, hypnosis is really the fastest way that you can make these types of changes. It's really going straight to the root. It's going straight to the subconscious. It's bypassing all the conscious stuff. That's why every practice has a purpose and is useful. So therapy, traditional therapy, is very useful. Tools, strategies, working on a conscious level, but for things that are subconscious and unconscious, it is not the best. What is the best is something that actually gets to the root, works on a subconscious or unconscious level. That's what hypnotherapy is. And there's other great things out there too. I just feel that hypnotherapy is the best. Of course, I'm a little biased, but that's why I'm doing this work, because it is really effective. So have a clear goal. Other things that you can do, just be comfortable, be relaxed. I always tell my clients, come in as relaxed as you possibly can. Try to avoid any stressful situations, anything that's going to kind of get your heartbeat to rise. The key here is to just be as relaxed as possible and really take good care of yourself, because what we're doing is we're going within and we're doing that work. And the more heightened you are, it just may take a little bit longer. And sometimes that's normal. Sometimes we're just nervous about what to expect. We have different fears or concerns around the process. And because of that, it just takes a little bit longer. The worst case scenario is that it just takes longer for you to relax. And so it takes longer. But ultimately with therapy, with any type of exchange of services, time is money. So just be aware of that, that if you are more nervous and you have more fears and things like that, if the day of you're working a lot and you're drinking a lot of coffee and you're getting real stressed and you're paying for these services, that that may not be the best thing, because and I'm sure we all want you to get the most value out of this experience as you can. And if it's going to take longer and we only have X amount of time per session, then that may mean that you have to come back later, or it's just going to take longer. And again, really, that's not what I personally want. And for me personally, my sessions are longer. I do 4-hour sessions, 4 hours plus session length. And I'm, one of the few that do this. There's others that have longer sessions too, but many, hypnosis sessions are an hour or 2 hours. For me personally, I like them longer because that allows us to have as much time as possible. I would much rather get as much as we can done in the time that we have together whenever we're right in front of each other, than having to push this and kick the can down the road and do a bunch of different sessions. So one 4-hour plus session is almost like 6 sessions plus in one. And the reason for that is because in a 1-hour session, you're probably only in a hypnosis type state for maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, because it takes a little bit of time to get into that state and then get out of it. And then you're also talking beginning at the end too. So you may only be in there for 20 minutes versus in a 4-hour plus session. I mean, you're in that space for like 3+ hours. And again, I'm a little unique when it comes to that, but that's the reason I do it that way. And the last thing I'll say is, well, also you want to make sure you're free of distractions. So make sure to turn off your phone or turn it on silent, things like that. Make sure there's not a whole lot of things that are going to be on your mind that might like take you out of it and cause distractions. But the number one thing is just come in as much as you can with an openness, a willingness to go wherever, and having ideally no expectations. Even though we do have expectations around what we want to get out of certain things and we want to get results. But again, in a hypnosis session, we're really quieting that part of the mind. And the more agitated we can be, or the more our expectations are, can cause us to get kind of frustrated, can cause us to put certain just create certain ideas around where we should be and what we should be doing and what things should be like. And more often than not, things are looking different than what we think. And our experience may be a lot different than what we think. Sometimes I use the analogy of, like, let's say that you're going to go into a movie and that movie has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, or you're thinking like, oh, I'm going to go in and see this like 100% movie, and it's like a 99. You would be upset. You'd be like, I thought it was 100 and it's a 99. But the reality is that was a 99 movie. That was a pretty good movie. But because it wasn't what you expected, it wasn't at 100, you're upset, or you might be frustrated. That's an extreme example, but it's the same kind of thing. Whenever we put expectations around things, we don't see the full picture. So best thing you could possibly do is just come in with an open mind, no expectations, just open to have any type of experience, and just as much as you can possibly do, trust yourself. Trust that everything's going to go well. Trust that even if it doesn't seem that way, even if it doesn't seem like things are going well, even if it doesn't seem like the way that you thought, that you're still going to get results, or that you're going to get what you need out of the process. Let me know if you have any questions about any of that. Make sure to leave any questions that you have down below, and I'll answer those or make another video about them. Next thing I want to go over, can anyone be hypnotized? Yes, everyone can be hypnotized for sure. This is a huge misconception that only some people can be hypnotized. The reason that it's such a big misconception is because Hollywood, because entertainment, because traditional hypnosis, where you're kind of waving the watch and then somebody's going to sleep and then there's some words said and then they wake up and it's like, oh, did this work or not? So for example, like quitting smoking, that's a great example, because you may expect, okay, I want to quit smoking, so I'm going to go to a hypnosis session and I'm just going to imagine that I'm going to fall asleep and that some words are going to be said and I'm going to wake up and I'm not going to ever smoke again. Well, there are forms of hypnotherapy that are like this. So I will say that yes, this is traditionally what hypnosis and hypnotherapy has kind of been, where it's basically been more suggestion-based, where you would go to sleep and maybe the hypnosis practitioner would say some suggestions or maybe give you some affirmations or have you do some visualization, and then you would come out of it and then you would expect to just not have to smoke, or that you wouldn't want to smoke ever again. And for some people that works, and for some it doesn't. And so when you're defining it that way, then yes, in that scenario, well, then there is an idea around, is this going to work, or is this, or won't this? And oftentimes these ideas are perpetuated around one session, maybe two or three tops, where it's like, okay, I'm going to expect to go in for one session in 1 hour and come out a non-smoker, or it didn't work. So what I try to do, my best as a practitioner, is get everyone out of this mindset of, it's some magic cure and it's a magic trick, and the magic trick either works or it doesn't, because that's not what this is. What hypnosis and hypnotherapy really is a way for you to do the real work, the real inner work to overcome these things. So the same example I used earlier about the fear of flying is this. It's the same with smoking. So it's different. Different people could smoke for different reasons. Sometimes it's just a habit. That's all it is. It's just something that our parents might have done, and then we just kind of picked it up, and there's really not a whole lot of underlying stuff underneath there. Sometimes it's a coping mechanism. Sometimes there's a lot of anxiety. Sometimes there's just way deeper patterns that are causing us to smoke. And if we go in with the magic trick idea, that may work if it's just a habit, if it's not deeply rooted, but it certainly is not going to work if there's a lot of deep-rooted even trauma or things underneath the surface that may be causing that. So really, again, the way that I look at it is hypnosis and hypnotherapy is a way for you to do the real work. It always works, but again, my definition of it working is it helping you? Is it actually helping you get to the root? Is it helping you overcome things? Is it helping you work on the real issue? And I see 100% of the time, yes, it is. As long as you can be calm and relax and trust yourself and just go through the process, it will work. But again, I'm defining work as it's helping. If you're defining work as it needs to remove everything or get rid of everything, it can still work. It's just that it may take more sessions. It may take more time. It's different for everyone. It's impossible for me to know as a practitioner how many sessions it might take for you, especially before we start doing the work. But once we start doing the work, then it can become more obvious how many layers there are and everything like that. And I have seen that everyone can go in a trance state, 100%. So if you're also worried about, can I go into a trance state? Can I go under? Can I get to a place where I can actually have an experience? Yes, you can, but that can take time too. And the reason I can say with confidence, yes, you can, is because can you drive a car? Can you read a book? Can you watch TV? Can you go to sleep? Can you relax? Yes, you can do those things. And whenever you do those things, you're immediately in an altered state. The science shows that as soon as you watch TV, as soon as you drive a car, any of these things, your brain instantly shifts into an altered state. Actually, technically, as soon as you close your eyes, your brain goes into an altered state. An altered state is kind of like a conservation of resource state. So as soon as you close your eyes, your brain's in an altered state because your mind is like, okay, well, this person is probably going to sleep or they don't need to be using conscious processes, so we're going to instantly shift them into the alpha state. So if you can close your eyes, literally, if you can close your eyes, this is all backed by science, you can do hypnosis because technically you're in an altered state, believe it or not. And so everyone can do it 100%. That being said, does it take longer for some people? Yes. Some of us, we just have a lot of doubts. We have a lot of skepticism. The number one thing that stops us from having a successful session or makes it take longer is, bar none, self-doubt. Self-doubt is the number one thing. So if you have a lot of self-doubt, okay, there's maybe a chance that it might take a little longer for you. But I've worked with people who have so much self-doubt that even I was like, I don't know if this person, if we're gonna be able to have a successful session or get through the session. And we do, and we still do. So that's why when I have clients come to me now that ask like, hey, I'm worried, I don't know if it's going to happen for me, I'm like, you'll be okay, because I've worked with people who I literally didn't know and it still worked for them. So I have no doubt now that it can work for everyone. I've worked with the people who you wouldn't believe, and it's just, I don't want to say that in a negative way, but it's just like they had so much anxiety that even I was like, are they going to be able to relax enough and trust themselves enough to make this process, to help, have this process go smoothly? And they do. So I've got confidence in you, and I've got confidence that this can work for everyone. I haven't seen one person so far that it just has not been able to work for at all. So I've been doing this for 3 years, worked with hundreds of clients, hundreds of sessions, not one yet. So let's see. The next thing, the conscious versus the subconscious mind, explained. So think of this, again, as that classic picture of the tip of the iceberg, right? You see the tip of the iceberg, but you don't see everything going on underneath. The same example that I used earlier about the technology, right? We can see something, but we don't understand the internal operating system. And that's the best way that I can put it. Think of your subconscious mind as your operating system. There's a lot of things in there that science has not even really been able to scratch the surface of. Why? Because you can't see it. You've got to use different brainwave tools and all these types of things to study that. It's not something that is actually visible to the naked eye. These are processes just like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi that are going on that we can't see. So think of it as your internal operating system. What I think is really cool is that there's a superconscious in there as well. So there's the subconscious. Think of it as like this vast sea. Like, let's literally use this as an analogy. Like, think of the subconscious as the ocean. Well, there's a lot of different things going on in the ocean, but from the surface, you're just seeing the ocean, right? If you couldn't go under the water, you would just see the ocean. That's it. And then maybe you would see a dolphin jumping, or something like that might tell you, oh, there could be something going on because I just saw that dolphin jumping, right? Think of a dolphin jumping as like a trigger. Oh, I got triggered. Oh, I noticed this. I got triggered. This person made me angry, or my kids or my parents made me feel this way, and ow, that hurts. That makes me, feel hurt. It is a trigger, right? That's the dolphin jumping, but we can't see what's underneath there that's causing that. I just come up with that analogy right now, but I love this analogy because if you go underneath the surface of the water, you can see there's dolphins, there's whales, there's all sorts of stuff going on. Think of the superconscious as the whale. Like, well, I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but think of it, the analogy is getting a little weird now, but think of the superconscious as like this, let's just use the whale as an example. Like it's this massive, massive creature. This is not the best analogy, but just think of it as like your superconscious mind is this sort of infinite intelligence that we're connected to, that is like the closest I can say to the divine or source or our soul or our higher self. It's the part of us that is a part of us that is just literally super intelligent. And this is in your subconscious as well. So in sessions that I do, the whole goal of my sessions, really truthfully, is just to access our superconscious, because our superconscious has all the answers, truly does. And I'm going to go into this more in other videos, especially when I talk about quantum healing hypnosis. So you'll be able to find more about it. But when we access this, it's almost like a cheat code. It's like unfair. Like we access the part of us that really knows everything. So I'm always like, how can we get there as fast as possible? We got to wade through the waters. We got to dip our toes in and go little by little to get in the water. But once we go in the water, then we can access our superconscious. And think of our superconscious again. Terrible example, but it's like this infinitely intelligent whale. And we need to go into the water to like meet this whale and start connecting with it. Except the whale in this case is you. It's just another part of you. But it is you, and it's present, and it's always here right now. It's listening to me right now. It's with you right now. You can access it, but not as readily, not as easily in your conscious mind. Although it can happen, and maybe it can be easy for some people. But generally speaking, if we don't go searching for it, it's there, but the secret is we can actually make a relationship with it. And that's what I like to specialize in too, is actually having us build a relationship with that part of us. More on that later. I don't want to get too off topic for this, but just know that when it comes to the subconscious and the conscious, I've talked a lot about the subconscious. The conscious mind is more of our computer. I think of the conscious mind as, just a computer that we can go in and we can crunch numbers and it can do our accounting and it can rationalize, but it doesn't really know anything. It's just like kind of almost like our own ChatGPT, although that could be kind of considered both because we also are connected to our infinite organic natural ChatGPT or AI that is organic. It knows everything and it's connected to us. It's very much alive and living, but we also have our conscious mind, which is like our computer. And the best our computer can do can rationalize and get to an answer with 99.99999% confidence, but it can't say, I know. Because the knowing comes from within. It comes from your soul. It comes from the depths of you, the depths of your heart. That's where the knowing comes in. And in your subconscious, you can tap into that, but your conscious is still very important. And generally throughout the day, whenever we're in that waking beta state, we are using our computer, we're in our conscious minds. Again, unfortunately, the conscious mind also creates a lot of doubt and confusion and frustration. So a lot of the suffering comes from the conscious mind as well. Really, all the suffering comes from the conscious mind, realistically. But at the same time, the conscious mind actually helps to protect us too. And in many cases, if we've gone through hard things throughout our life, the conscious mind can block out some of those memories and it can sort of help protect us from certain things. It's just that it can also kind of get too extreme and it can create a lot of fears that while those fears may be keeping us safe at a certain point, they also keep us small. So if you're in a position where you feel like you've got these extreme fears and anxiety that are stopping you from doing something you want to do, it's just because these processes are overactive. They've just been running on autopilot to an extreme for so long that they're actually now keeping you small and holding you back, keeping you feeling stuck and blocked from moving forward and becoming this full potential version of you. Okay, module 3. I know this video is kind of running on, so I'm going to try to be a little quicker when it comes to these next modules, module 3, but at the same time, I just want to make sure that this is a comprehensive course and that this is literally a complete guide. So originally I was trying to make this video 20-30 minutes and it's going to be much more than that already. So thanks for sticking with me. If you've stuck with me this long, I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Just really want to express my gratitude for sticking around and hopefully you're learning things. And I'm probably every year gonna remake this video and these videos that I'm making just to make sure they're up to date. But thanks for sticking around and we're gonna keep going with this. Okay, module 3. The session and this just says the session and common applications. I'll probably change that name. Okay, so next, what happens in a typical hypnotherapy session? So this may be different for different practitioners. Everyone has their own way of doing it. But generally speaking, there's the intake process, which is when you're having a conversation, you're having a discussion with the practitioner about what you want to get out of it, what your goals are, your background, different things like that. And once you and your practitioner have gotten to a good place with understanding what you really want to get out of it, your background, your history, and you feel ready, your practitioner's probably walked you through the process a little bit, then we go into the induction. So the induction is actually you allowing yourself to be induced into an altered state. And this altered state, again, is where all the magic happens in the hypnotherapy process. But think of it again, like these deep waters, that's you in an altered state. The induction is like you dipping your toes in the water and starting to gradually move to that place. And this is different for everyone. For some people, it happens quicker. For some people, it happens a little slower. So the main thing is just be patient with yourself as this is happening. Because sometimes you can be really quick. Sometimes you can just dive right into the deep end. Other times, and more commonly, it just takes a little bit. So when I'm working with clients, it takes time. And that's part of the process. I'm okay with that because it's gentle, it's safe. It's not going to be anything that's going to be too much for you. But sometimes it can take a little bit of time. And my goal, again, is always to help someone get to the theta state where they can access their superconscious mind. So I usually say there's different stages, the light trance, medium, deep. And in the light trance, you're mostly just kind of receiving thoughts and you're kind of maybe seeing some things in your mind or thinking about some things. In medium, you start to actually see visions. So think of it as if it's like a memory, if you're thinking about a memory, in the light state, you're just thinking about it. I'm just thinking about my childhood, for example. Or maybe I'm thinking about the future. I don't know, anything. Or let's say you're thinking about an apple, whatever that would be. In the medium, you're actually seeing that. So in the medium, I'd be seeing the apple. I'd be seeing what the future might look like for me. Like literally, if you're envisioning the future and what you might be doing, which sometimes happens in a session where you're kind of seeing an outcome, you would actually be kind of seeing that in photos. Or if you're thinking about a memory, you're actually seeing it. Not just in your mind like a vignette, like it's all black, you're actually seeing that in photos or even like a movie. When you're in the deepest level of trance, literally can be like a lucid dream where you're feeling like you're really there. Maybe you're really back in your childhood home, experiencing that. Maybe you're really with this apple, I guess in this case, or you're really seeing yourself in the future as this person that's realizing your full potential, whatever that would be. These are the different levels of trance and how it's connected. So I like to say that there's two components to a hypnosis, like hypnotherapy session when it comes to this. There's the actual content of what's coming through for you during the session, but then there's your experience of it, how you're actually experiencing it. And that is connected to your level of trance. When you're in the lightest level of trance, you're just thinking about it. It's just in your thoughts. When you're in the deepest, you're really experiencing it and you're feeling all the emotions, and it's very, very immersive. So, and that was, we went through the induction, and then there's the actual journey part of the session. So what I just described is kind of the journey. You end up going on this journey. In my sessions, it's almost more similar to a psychedelic type of experience where you're really going through a journey. But every practitioner is different. Many practitioners focus on doing change work. So they're doing work to actually change your beliefs and help you reprogram certain things. And this is happening in this phase, the journey phase, the actual content, when you're past the induction and now we're actually doing the real work. Some practitioners, they use suggestions. So towards the end, they'll start suggesting certain things. So let's say you want to come in for anxiety or changing habits. They'll be having you maybe envision yourself, or you'll be going through a journey envisioning something. And then the hypnotherapist or the practitioner will be actually giving you suggestions or reaffirming certain things to make sure that your mind is absorbing that. So if you're changing the habit, let's say you're, going in for biting your nails, for example. Maybe those suggestions would be around you're not biting your nails anymore. You're seeing yourself as someone that isn't. That's a little bit more traditional, basic hypnotherapy. But let's say, for example, like someone might come to me to connect more deeply with their higher self, for example. Or another example could be maybe they're coming in because they are struggling with fear of failure or fear of rejection. And then through the journey, they've actually been able to start overcoming that and getting to the root of where their fear of rejection comes from, which may be a lack of fully accepting themselves because of something that happened. In the suggestion part, that's when we can start affirming, okay, we are worthy. We do have value. We are worthy of being loved or having what we want. But it's more than just a suggestion. In that case, a lot of times it's a knowing. It's a recognition of the truth. Because again, I just like to say that a lot of times what we're doing is actually de-hypnosis. We've already hypnotized to think that we're not worthy, or that we're not lovable, or that we deserve to be punished, or whatever, even though that's not true. So at the end, we're actually recognizing, oh, we are worthy, we do deserve this, we are this. And so for me, I look at this less as suggestions and actually more just recognition and affirming the truth. But other times it can be suggestions and things like that. So that's sort of the next stage. And then the final stage is coming back to full waking state and then recapping or integrating what actually came through. And this process takes time. Oftentimes, sometimes I will actually set up calls, a follow-up call, or we'll have a follow-up session to kind of go over and integrate what came through, because it's a lot sometimes. It's so much to take in that we actually need to sit with it. And what I do is I actually record the sessions and give a transcript and things like that to help you go through everything and be able to allow everything to sink in. Because again, a lot of the healing process, a lot of this change work comes down to bringing in this subconscious material, the superconscious material, but bringing it into our conscious. So whenever we're working in the subconscious or the superconscious with that, we come back and we return back to our normal conscious waking state. It can almost be like an A and B, like an on and off. And now we actually have to go back and like take that material and integrate it further. Even though change is already done, it can be done quicker by integrating, reviewing the material, journaling, meditating, reflecting, things like that. I've got a meeting here in about, I'm going to try to get through this a little bit more quickly. I've got a meeting in about 30 minutes, which hopefully it won't take this, we'll go a little quicker. So if you see me kind of processing certain things, I'm just trying to make sure I can get through everything. And I'm gonna go a little quicker here. I can always break these down even more into future videos, even though this is already a lot. Okay. Most common uses for hypnotherapy. Well, big ones are fears. I would say the number one place that hypnotherapy is the most effective is when it comes to fear and anxiety. Why is that? Is because it helps us face those fears. I think this is the most valuable thing that anyone could ever do, is actually like overcome and face your fears, because your fears are actually what's keeping you small. They're holding you back from your highest potential. Maybe you're procrastinating on something. Maybe you're avoiding something. Well, whatever you're procrastinating on, whatever you're avoiding is actually in what you should be doing in a certain way, even though you don't really want to say should, but that's actually going to be helping you overcome things to reach your full potential. So if you're avoiding something, if you're procrastinating, there's a reason. And instead of trying to outwork that by hypnosis and hypnotherapy, with that, you can go directly to the root to work on these things, to overcome that. And so it can be really, really effective. But really, it's effective at pattern changing, recognizing patterns, changing habits, really just change. It's going down to our wiring, to our operating system, and changing ourselves, improving ourselves at the operating system level. I really love that I'm doing this work. I love this work because it's really the most effective thing that I feel is really out there. And I love that you don't have to use any substances or anything outside yourself. It's all from within. Honestly, I feel it's the most empowering thing possible, because it's one of the few things out there that actually helps you reclaim your power. It helps you take your power back. There's certain things that maybe taking your power away, or certain people or different time periods that you've kind of left your power in. And this helps you go back and revisit those, or connect and reclaim that, and all from within. I look at myself less as a doctor or a therapist, and actually more as a guide, just guiding you within to get those answers and get that clarity for yourself. So it's so empowering, because it just shows you that you can access and you have everything you need within. So anxiety, fears, and phobias, bad habits, improving confidence, improving performance, healing trauma, connecting with your higher self, more spirituality, understanding your soul purpose, your soul path, everything that would be out of your conscious mind, That's what hypnosis and hypnotherapy specializes in, is understanding that. So for me, personally, in my practice, I focus on 4 things. I focus on, well, first, this is kind of a prerequisite, is helping you reach a place of being calm, of just being calm, being relaxed. So that would kind of go along with reducing stress, reducing anxiety. That's number 1. Number 2, what I focus on is healing. Or actually, number 2 is clarity, helping you get clarity around certain things in your life. If you're confused, if you don't know why things have happened, if you don't know why things are the way that they are, why your relationships are the way that they are, why this trigger or this pattern or this situation, anything that you are confused or don't have clarity, that's what I specialize in. And also that's what hypnosis is really good at, is helping to uncover the truth of what is going on. Number 3 is, well, yeah, I guess it would be 5 things technically, because the anxiety, that would be number 1, and usually the anxiety is prerequisite. But okay, we'll say number 3 is healing. So healing is more about actually healing these things. I mean, obviously, but it's one thing to have clarity over certain things, but just getting the clarity might not actually help you move through that process or help you actually heal or overcome it. So actually healing those things, even though healing is a broad and sometimes arbitrary, nebulous word, really a lot of times healing comes down to compassion, acceptance, forgiveness, moving things through the heart. It all comes down to letting things go. Boom, mic drop. Just letting things go. Letting these things go so that you're not holding on to them, so that they're not affecting you, creating suffering. Just letting them go so that you're free. You don't have to worry about that anymore. You're taking everything under your own control, not feeling controlled by something else or like something else controls you. Number 4, self-discovery is actually discovering more of who you are deep down. Your true core values, your true self, who you really are, what you love, what you're here to do, your purpose, your mission. All these things, just understanding more of who you really are, because all these other things going on are actually blocking you from having the clarity, from moving through certain situations to help you see more clearly who you really are and eventually embody that. So number 4 is self-discovery, and number 5 is embodying it, which I call self-actualization or self-realization. It's helping you actually realize the full potential of who you are. So even after you start to know that, there is a process of actually becoming that and stepping into that. And so by going through this whole journey, you actually actualize your full true self. So this is kind of my process and how I go about doing things, but every hypnotherapist is different. Next, how suggestions work to create change. So in traditional hypnosis, suggestions have been pretty widely used as the way to create change. And that's because, again, what is happening is that these suggestions, these affirmations, are going into our conscious mind or our subconscious or wherever, and our mind is then accepting them and integrating them. And just like what I said before, my version of that is actually just letting you know and showing you the truth. So if it's a suggestion, you can accept that and you can absorb that, and then you can go and change your life that way. So in the smoking example, maybe the suggestion is like, you aren't going to smoke anymore. Or in the biting nails example is you wouldn't bite your nails anymore. And that can go and work. But again, what I specialize in is going deeper to the root cause and actually bringing up the truth. So in the previous example too, those truths, when you accept the truth, you start actually embodying that pretty easily. What I've really learned, this is a big secret and key that I've learned that is really, really cool, is that it's easy to think about our belief systems as like limiting beliefs, right? We hear that a lot, limiting beliefs. But a belief is something that you really don't know to be true. So you're just kind of, if you have to believe it, then you don't really know it to be true. For example, you don't have to believe that I'm sitting here talking to you right now, like in this video. This is just a fact. You just know this to be true. You don't have to believe it. It's just accepted. It's just, this is true. Well, so a lot of this type of work you can think of as changing your beliefs, but what I look at it as is not changing your beliefs, is actually changing what you accept to be true. Because what's creating you to be the way that you are in certain ways is that you've built some of your personality and some of your identity on a foundation that really isn't true. And once you actually accept and know what is true, it changes your life. You start acting in a completely different way, because now you have a new perception of what you know, and what you know, not what you believe. What you know is true. So it's not limited beliefs that are so powerful, it's accepted truths. So in my work, I'm really focused on helping you accept the truth. But either way, whether it's limiting beliefs or accepted truths, this is what creates the change. This is what everything, our personalities, our identities are built on, is these different things that we've accepted as true. For example, let's say that we struggled with our parents. Our parents didn't give us love and completely, and we felt like we had to get their attention a certain way, or we had to do X, Y, Z to be loved. Well, you had a belief, but more than a belief, you had an accepted truth that I have to do X, Y, Z in order to gain love. Your accepted truth was, I'm not lovable the way I am. I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. And because of that, then I'm doing these things. Well, once you accept a new truth, I am enough. I don't need to do this to get love. I'm already worthy. I'm already lovable. Then you start functioning a different way. So this is where the real powerful change comes in. Next, how many sessions will I need? What should I expect? This goes back to what I said earlier at the beginning, is that how many sessions will you need? It's impossible for anyone and me to know right off the beginning, because everyone is different. All these situations and these issues are different. They all are like an onion, and they have different layers. Some might just have 1 layer, some have 5, some have 10. These are just figurative, but basically some have a little bit of layers or not many at all. Some medium, some have a lot of layers. And we don't know how long it's going to take to work through them, because that's also dependent on you too. Some people can work through a lot of layers very, very quick. Some people might take a lot longer. Even if there's only a little bit of layers, or it's not really a big challenge, it can still take some people a long period of time. So what I call hypnosis, how I think of it, again, is like a highway. It's like a fast lane. It's like the carpool lane for you to do the real inner work necessary to overcome what it is that you're looking to overcome. And it's not going to do the work for you. It's not a magic pill or a magic cure, but it is probably, in my opinion, one of the closest things that we can do in life that is sort of magical to help you get there quicker. Because you're really partnering with your subconscious, with your superconscious, to do the work that's going to be faster than you can do on your own, because you're just bypassing. It's like a cheat code. You're getting directly to the root. You're going underneath the surface to do the work. That being said, again, it's really hard to know how many you'll need. So generally speaking, for me in my practice, I usually recommend 3 to 4. But I've worked with people that do more than 6, that do 10 and more, and some people just do 1 or 2. There's kind of 2 phases. There's like the break glass in case of emergency phase, the eliminating the problem phase, and then there's kind of the maintenance and the growth phase. So I usually recommend maybe 1 or 2 might be enough to just get rid of the problem, but then the maintenance could be more, or the growth could be a little more. But generally speaking, I found 3 and 4 sessions to be kind of a sweet spot for my work that I do. That doesn't mean that that's a one-size-fits-all rule, as sometimes it can take a lot longer, but at the same time, you never know. Although I will say sometimes these issues that we go through are a lifetime. It will take a lifetime for us to work through them, and I know we don't want to hear that. But sometimes these issues, especially if we're in our 40s or something, for example, and we've experienced things in childhood and they're still really prevalent, I know we don't want to hear it, but we can be working on this the rest of our life. It depends on the issue. It doesn't mean that it's going to be affecting us the way that it does currently for the rest of our life, but it just means that it may be somewhat present. That doesn't mean that it has to have any control over us, though. We can completely overcome it. It's just that it may always be a life theme for us. So I just want to make that known and set that expectation that sometimes these issues, they're just so big that they're really like central to our entire life. So it may not be realistic to think that we're just going to get rid of that in 1 or 2 sessions, because then we're not really thinking of it the right way, because then we might look at the hypnosis or hypnotherapy as like a failure because it didn't get rid of this core life wound or theme in like 1 session or 2 sessions, when it actually did help. And if we continue with it, if we keep it up, and if we look at the big picture, it really has a way of unwinding these things really, really quickly. And it's done that for me in my life, where I've had, and I'll go into my story, and I've already gone into my story a little bit, but I've had like severe things, happen to me, which I'll go into later. Not, I mean, in retrospect and, comparatively, there's people out there that have gone through way worse. But at the same time, I've gone through significant things in my life that with hypnotherapy and similar process, I've been able to wind down to where it maybe only took me like a year to work through that, which in the scheme of things is pretty amazing. It wasn't anything that happened over like a session, but still over a year in the scheme of things is pretty amazing. But anyway, anything is possible, because I've also seen literal miracles happen in like 1 session. So I'm never going to be the person that says miracles or these one session wonders can't happen, because they can. I know they can. It's just I don't want to set that expectation either, because then the biggest detriment to a session is the self-doubt and the frustration. So the reality is, have reasonable expectations, but have hope too, because anything can happen. Anything's possible. Okay, we're kind of winding down here. We've got Module 4, which is really about self-hypnosis and finding the right person to work with. So self-hypnosis is something that I myself have not really done a whole lot of. And that's mainly because my style of it is a lot different than most. So I'm going to explain self-hypnosis from what is traditionally out there, and then I'll also let you know a little bit about what my version of that is that I'm planning to get really good at, but I just haven't done too much yet because I'm so focused on working with others. So self-hypnosis is kind of a way to program your own mind. You can do that with meditations, with self-hypnosis guided tracks. The key here is that you're working in an alpha state. You're working at a lower state of consciousness, or not a lower, but you're working in your subconscious. So again, when you close your eyes, you're already in your subconscious. So what you can do is you can lay down, you can close your eyes, and you can repeat affirmations. You can listen to tracks, for example, when you go to sleep, and you're able to sort of work in that space on your own. So this can be really effective to augment the work that you're already doing. So let's say you're doing a lot of change work, or you're working on certain traumas or certain patterns. You could integrate a self-hypnosis practice just like you would do meditation or yoga or something before you go to sleep or when you wake up. These are really good times to do it because you're more relaxed. And again, I would recommend just closing your eyes. You can put on a track, an audio track. I'm going to be making a lot of these audio tracks here on this channel. So you can put on one of my tracks in the future and just listen to it and just close your eyes, because again, closing your eyes, you're going to be in that state. I would recommend sitting up or being propped up so you don't fall asleep, because once you fall asleep, it can still work. You're still technically in a delta state. Your mind's still taking things in. But again, the goal is that it's an integration between your subconscious and your conscious. So whenever you're laying down, you're awake, but you're taking that information in, and you're just replaying that and replaying that and replaying that. And my version of it is very visualization and feeling based. I'm going to be having a lot of meditations again that I'm going to be creating for this channel that are going to help with this. But what you can do is you can actually put on a guided meditation. Now this is kind of what I'm going to be creating, is a guided meditation that's built for hypnosis, meaning that it's a guided meditation that's supposed to help you achieve something. This is kind of advanced. Like, there's not a whole lot of things out there. I would say I'm kind of more of a pioneer when it comes to this stuff. So that's why I kind of need to be the person to create these things, because not a whole lot out there right now, but I'll have to go look for them and link them down below in the comments. Because the idea is that when you use your visualization, you can sort of force induce the theta state, and that's when real powerful change can happen. So when you actually visualize Like let's say you put on a guided meditation that's taking you through a forest or anything, and you visualize, you really imagine that you're there, your brain almost doesn't know the difference between you dreaming and you just making that up, or you really being there. Like your brain, might actually really think that you're there. And so in this state, you can bridge to your superconscious and you can really start changing things pretty quickly. So if you can have that mixed with self-hypnosis, meaning that it's mixed with suggestions or truths that you can accept, or certain things, certain patterns, certain behaviors that you're wanting to create, it can be very, very powerful. Again, this is a field that I'm probably not going to talk too much more about in this video, because I'm going to have to create a lot of this content for you guys. But the idea here is that it's very helpful when you have something like that, an audio track or something, because it could be challenging to do it just on your own. Like for example, since we can only sort of be mostly focused in one side of the brain at a time, to be able to do a true hypnosis session on your own, you would have to be kind of going back and forth between the subconscious and the conscious and the subconscious and the conscious. And I fall asleep a lot when I try to do that. Like I'm like really good at like being there, but then I'll like fall asleep. So it's hard for me to kind of go back and forth. I'm probably losing you a little bit. And this topic is very advanced, which I'm going to go into later, but just what I want you to take away from this, at least basically, is that self-hypnosis does work. It is effective. So even if it's just a basic track, I would say go ahead and do it, because it's very, very powerful. Okay. Next is, I've got in here how to find a hypnotherapist. So if you want to find a good hypnotherapist, I would recommend looking for one in your area or online. And look for someone good that's got good reviews. Reviews are, of course, always a good place to go, but also pay attention to how you connect with them. It's so important, trust and rapport and feeling comfortable, feeling safe. So you want someone that you really feel safe in their presence and that you really trust. And this is the most important thing. It's even more important than in-person or online. Of course, in-person is great, but I've even found that online sessions work better than in-person sessions in many cases. And why? Is because you're in your own space, you're comfortable, you're relaxed. You don't have to worry about feeling comfortable in the space or with someone else, and you can go a lot deeper. I honestly find that when I'm working with someone online, we need less sessions. Usually what might take 2 sessions gets done in 1, because some of those fears and worries can go away a lot quicker because you're in your own space. That being said, a lot of us, we really do like to work with people in person. So if in person is the most important thing, then look for someone in your area or close by and do your research, and also just see if you can find pictures or videos of them to connect with them. Or many offer free consultations, and you really want to see how you connect with them, how you feel. Always pay attention to how you feel. Your body really does keep the score here, and it knows if someone is going to be a good person for you. And just always trust yourself, trust your own intuition 100%. Again, if you are open to working online, you can expand to more people. And you can also look for people who are specifically specializing in what it is that you're looking for. There are practitioners out there that specialize in smoking, that specialize in phobias, or whatever that might be, whatever you might be going through. You can look for someone that really specializes in what you're doing, and that's really good. For me, I specialize more almost in the spiritual type of hypnosis, more in a connecting with your superconscious, more in a life purpose, connecting with your soul mission, connecting with higher consciousness. That's my specialty. So if you're interested in spirituality and you're more open-minded, you're really curious and you want to go as deep as possible, then I might be a good person to work with. But not everyone is, and a lot of people aren't. And if you're just looking for something that is a little lighter, that's, very specific to anything, really, I'm of course biased. Let me turn off the, I keep getting these notifications. I'm of course biased, that in the work that I'm doing, but really, the key is just to look for someone who you really, really connect with. That's the bottom line. Look for someone that you trust. Look for someone that really you resonate with, that has good reviews, and read the reviews and actually see what everyone says. And you could even search the reviews for what you have and see how they're doing with that. And what you really want to look for in the reviews too is the results. Look for the results, because you can have great session experiences, but you also want to have good results as well. And as a hypnotherapist, it is tricky. That is really tricky, because we and myself only have so much power over the results. In many cases, I'm the witness and the observer to the process myself as well. As much as I wish that everyone would have amazing results, I can't guarantee that. Some people have amazing results, some people have little results, some people have medium. But the mark of a good hypnotherapist, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, is can they help you feel comfortable and safe to access the deepest parts of yourself, because that is what creates transformation. And so essentially, this is the secret, this is the key. The key to actually being able to get to the deepest levels of trance is actually just feeling safe, feeling comfortable. Sometimes it takes us to feel safe and comfortable with another person for us to feel safe and comfortable to open up and be honest with ourselves. But by doing that, we can create real transformation. So bar none, that is, in my opinion, the key to a good hypnotherapist. Why? Because whenever you access those deeper layers and you create the real transformation, that leads to results, real results. And people will write about those results in the reviews. So whenever you go to the reviews, look for the results. Don't just look for a good experience, or this person was nice and they had a nice office, or this person, whatever, right? Like surface level stuff. Like dive deep and look to see who's talking about the results. And I'm just saying all this just to save you money and save you time, and make sure that you get the most value, because I, more than anything, care about you having a good experience. I care about moving forward this field and this industry, and moving forward truth. And I found this industry, hypnosis, helps you tap into real truth. And there's a lot of truth here. But there's also, just like any industry, a lot of people who are maybe not in it for the right reasons, or may just be learning, or, there's just all kinds of people, and some people are just like anything else, a little more qualified than others. And I just want you to have a good experience, because the more of us have good experiences, the better. But again, I'm not here to judge either, because it's more about actually who we connect with. If you connect with someone, it doesn't really matter their skill level as much, because if you really deeply, truly connect with them and have a connection, they may not be the best on paper or the most qualified, but you may have an amazing experience with them. And so, yeah, just like anyone else, I'm human, and I can have judgment sometimes. But at the same time, I definitely want to accept everyone, even the people who may not be the best. And is it even my role to say who's the best anyway? So, I'm looking within here, but the main thing is just trust yourself. Number one thing, trust yourself. Okay, so just wrapping up here, the last thing is a quick recap. So just to quickly recap, we talked about what hypnosis is, the difference between hypnosis and hypnotherapy, the science. We talked about how to prepare. We talked about, can anyone be hypnotized, the conscious for the subconscious mind, what happens in a session, how suggestions work, the uses for hypnotherapy, self-hypnosis, finding a hypnotherapist, and finally, I just want to reiterate what the core message of this video is. The core message is, yes, hypnosis works. I went into this not knowing. When I started 3 years ago, I really didn't know. I thought it did because I was seeing some of the results and I saw some of the reviews and I was seeing some videos, but I really wanted to help as much as I can. And I didn't plan to get into hypnosis. Hypnosis came to me, really. It wasn't on my radar at all. And I've got into my story, but I'll get into it more in a future video because we'd be here for a lot longer. But it came to me, and it ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me, because it was one of the true, real things that worked. And so, does hypnosis work? Yes, hypnosis works. Like, hypnosis, in my opinion, is the most powerful thing that you can do. I really think it's the most powerful thing. Whenever I hesitate, it's really only plant medicine. Plant medicines like ayahuasca and some of these things might be the only thing that I could consider a little bit more powerful. But the reason I still think hypnosis, when done right and when approached right, is more powerful because it's more intentional, it's more directive. You can direct it with your mind rather than in a plant medicine ceremony have this sort of, other force that you may not have as much control over. You have a little more control over this. And there's no substances involved, so it's a lot safer, in my opinion. It's more gentle. It's not as extreme. It kind of goes at your own pace. So the bottom line is, yes, it works. It's safe, gentle, and effective. Everyone can do it. Everyone can be hypnotized. It can work for whether you're dealing with something that's so deeply rooted or whether just something that seems surface level. And I've just witnessed and observed that there's nothing that this can't help with. It's so powerful, and I'll get into more on another video to talk about these experiences and why I'm saying this, like, what do I mean by it being powerful? But really it comes down to that we're working with a force, we're working with a power that is much more than what we know. The subconscious, the superconscious, our higher self, our soul, all of that's accessible in this space is beyond me. It's beyond all of us. And in this space, we can connect with it and we can work with it directly. We can build a relationship with it. And the benefits of that are incredible. So I'll end here by just mentioning that. What are the benefits? Well, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but clarity, healing, a state of calm, of just being fully relaxed. And speaking from experience, really it's just feeling peace, feeling contentment, feeling fulfilled, being aligned, being in alignment with what you are here to do, with what makes you happy, realizing your full potential, but maybe more than just thinking like, oh, that's just what I'm here to build in the world, but actually a state of being, a state of being in bliss, a state of being connected with the truth. The benefits of just being able to exist in the world in presence, in contentment, in joy, and being able to feel good on a daily basis. And thankfully, I'm just so grateful that this has helped me get here to where I'm, living my dream, living my purpose, helping others. I'm so thankful that I get to make a video like this, that I don't have to, I get to look at everything kind of like with gratitude that I get to do this. How amazing is that? And everyone's different, but it can be like that for you as well. And the benefits are that you don't have to feel stuck. You don't have to feel blocked. You don't have to feel like the victim. You don't have to feel like all these things have happened to you. It's possible to be truly empowered and reclaim your power, really take your power back from wherever and whoever might have it right now, so that you can be free of fear, free of control. You can regain control, you can have control, as much as that means. And you can just live and be your true, authentic self. Okay, so this was a long video. What are the next steps? So next steps are keep exploring, keep learning, keep growing. This is the second video I've made, and I'm going to be making a lot more. So if you are seeing this whenever, you can go to my channel, watch more content if you resonate. If you want to set up a session with me, you can do that down below. At some point, I may create programs or other things. If that is available, you can connect with that down below. But number one thing, just have fun. Just enjoy your own process. Just know that we're all on a journey. We're all on a journey of getting more clarity, of feeling more relaxed, of healing, of discovering more of who we are, of actualizing and realizing our full potential, and coming into a greater place of peace, of power, of fulfillment. And just want to thank you for watching, and especially if you stayed on the video the whole time, you are a champion. So thank you so much. And next steps, just keep learning, keep growing, keep experimenting, stay open, stay soft, stay in your heart, and keep watching. And if you have any comments, anything that you want to share about this video, if I made you think a different way, if there's any requests that you have, again, this is my second video, so I just really welcome any feedback and anything that you might want to see as well. I'm a completely open book right now, and I'm going to be making live shows, and I'm even got a podcast that I'm going to be announcing soon. So I've got a lot of fun stuff in the works. So hope that I can connect more deeply with you. And I really mean that, because one of the things that I want to do is just really build authentic, genuine connections on this channel. And I feel like with AI and with the way the world is heading, that trust and authenticity are so important. That's why there's not a single edit in this video. And again, if I have things the way that I would like them, I think there's not ever going to be any edits on this channel. So I'm rambling now, but leave a comment down below if you made it this far, and let me know who you are. Let me know what stood out the most to you. Let me know something about yourself that you want to share with me, and let me know what you're interested in and what you'd like to see. Thank you. God bless.